Hey YouTube, coming back at you again with another Here in My Office. Not sure what Here in My Office this is. We're coming up on like 60. So now, when I originally started this series, I anticipated that maybe by Here in My Office 30, I would have a job. I would have found something, but not the case. So this video I wanted to make is a little bit about long-term unemployment and what it can do to your life, how damaging it is, um, and my background and what I bring to the table and why, how come um, I was able to be so successful in the past and now, I've reached such a dry spell. So, it all goes back to September 2018 when I started. When I was terminated from my last position, and I had been at that company for 7 years, and I was promoted there. I was an audit manager, and I was doing really good. I was taking home about $140,000 a year, which now seems like crazy a lot of money, which I can't um, seem to find a job that will pay that same amount. So, and I found jobs that have positions that offer less money, and they would even say, "Wow, you did good in the past." And it's just another. It kind of hurts, like because I guess you don't know what you had until you lose it. And I was really set in my ways and used to making good money, and the bank really took care of me, and they sent me around the world, and I thought I could do no wrong. I thought I was invincible, and you know, everybody's expendable these days, or any day probably, in the past or future. Um, and But the good news is I spent some time in the hospital and around when I was terminated for mental health reasons for bipolar disorder. If you want to check out my other video on bipolar disorder, go ahead and look at that. It's in my one of my most liked videos. Um, so I was hospitalized. Now this isn't a psychiatric mental hospital, so um, I I was not acting myself. I was in a different place with the bipolar disorder, having mania, and and I was buying a house. This house, the house we're in right now, and back last year, um, they were driving me crazy on the mortgage. They were asking me for things I already give them, and I got a little mouthy with them. I got angry, and said some things I probably shouldn't have in email, said some cuss words. I was pissed off, and they took that information and they gave that to my boss. And they have to understand I was applying for a mortgage at the bank that I work at, this is one of the biggest banks in the world. So, I never thought that they would put the two together, but I never thought it was an issue. So I said some things I shouldn't have said. And let me just make sure this is still recording. Yeah, so I said some things that most people probably would have on their mind in a situation like that, but they wouldn't say those things. But I was like, okay, we're dealing with like a $500,000 mortgage here. Um, I want this handled right. I want, what you're asking me to give to you is if I give you the information, I don't want you to go off on vacation and have somebody else cover for you. And that was happening. And no, they drove me nuts. And but at the end of the day, they gave me the mortgage. They granted me the mortgage, even though they stuck it in my ass on the other end with my job. They gave me the mortgage, right? So then I get the mortgage, and I'm better, and back on on medication, and I'm ready to come back to work, and I got my work return all scheduled and everything, and I come back on September 24th, 2018, and that's when they tell me because of my conduct, I broke their policy, and they just fired me. They didn't give me severance. They didn't give me anything. They just let me go. So immediately right after that, I went and talked to an attorney, and he said I had a case for wrongful termination, FMLA, Family Medical Leave Act. It's a law that makes sure that you have a job to go back to after you've been in the hospital for a time period. And that's kind of what we're basing our lawsuit on. But my damages, we've calculated damages that go to $1 million. I calculated $2 million, but we probably thought it would be more realistic for me to lower that expectation to $1 million, and I did. And do I think I'm going to get $1 million? I really don't. But I'm, it's all a component of front pay. Now, front pay is the money that you're losing out on in the future because you lost your job. Now, I've been out of work for 15 months, and 15 months pay at my old job is over $150,000. So I'm losing money by the minute, and a lot of money to me at least. And so when I did the calculation of my damages, I figured, well, I might find another job that might pay me $100,000, so $40,000 per year times X amount of years. I'm 37 years old till I'm 65. So work another 30 years, and you add that up, and you get a very large number. And it's also depletion of my savings. My 401k is all gone. And I would say a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago, 4 months ago, we got to the point where we were really making or out of money totally. And, right now I'm totally broke. Like, I used to have $200,000 in the bank, and that was just extra money that was for my savings, and it's gone. So that's part of the damages on the lawsuit. But what am I trying to make this video about? It's like, so what I've been trying to do in the meantime during this period of unemployment, which has now been 15 months, I've made copious notes on my background, and my resume is in ship shape. I know my resume is working for me because it's gotten me interviews from the likes of Goldman Sachs and Google and Walmart and all these large corporations with their internal audit departments. I'm getting in, but then when it comes down to getting the job and doing the interview, I'm able to take the interviews and get past the first round, second round. But when it comes down to getting down to it and getting down to getting the job, or getting to your final round, I'm just not making the cut. And currently, now I have a job interview tomorrow for Wells Fargo Audit Services, and it's 10:30 in the morning tomorrow, and you got to go to a designated site to do the interview, and it's in a video conference room at one of Wells Fargo's offices here in Buffalo. So they have that set up for me, and but I'm going into it kind of bummed out because I'm kind of just like, I just got rejected from Citigroup for a job that was here in Buffalo that would have really been good for me, and would have enabled me to stay here and hopefully get current on my bills and get everything paid up. But they passed on me, so it's just one of those things, I guess. So I've just gotten used to rejection after rejection. But I'm still an internal audit professional of 12 years. I'm still a certified internal auditor. I have an MBA. I have a finance bachelor's degree. I have all the stuff you need on paper to get these jobs and to have these, to be a senior audit manager. On paper, I have everything you need. But these jobs that I'm interviewing for, like the one for Wells Fargo, is in North Carolina, So do I really want to pick everything up and move to North Carolina? It's going to take a really good offer. And but I know that they pay well. I know that the job pays more than I was making before, and so I'm that's why I'm going for it. And and I'd say that it's also because Charlotte is a lower cost of living place to live, and I can get a nice house, bigger house than I would in some other areas. But at the same time, I've got Google talking to me, and they're in California, and the cost of living is exorbitant over there. But for my career, I would much, rather work at Google than take some other job here at a lesser known small company that people haven't heard of. That's not going to help me on my resume. So to get Google on my resume, absolutely, or Wells Fargo for that matter. I'm interested in Google because it's a different industry. It's software engineering, and everybody uses Google. And I've heard a lot about the Google. I've not heard a lot about it, but I've heard about the Google interview process and how challenging it can be. But that's for like software engineers. Well, they'll ask you engineering problems and things like that. But for audit, I don't see how the interview could be any different than the interviews for the other companies. But on the next week, I have an interview with Google for their audit positions, and they call the interview a hangout. So I have a 45-minute hangout with Google, and then if the hangout goes well, that's when the fun begins, and they would potentially fly me down. They would not potentially. If that goes well, the next step is an in-person interview, and I would get to go down to Sunnyvale, California, and interview with Google. So, it sounds pretty good. So, I'm at the point where I'm going to take whatever I can get. So if Wells Fargo comes through before Google, I'll still go with Google. I'll still talk to them. If I accept a position at Wells Fargo, it doesn't mean I can't interview at Google. So I'll do that for the sake of Google. But I'm just I got to get my head in the right place to interview, and it's going to start with Wells Fargo tomorrow morning. So whether I'm ready or not, tomorrow morning at 10:30, I talk to Wells Fargo, and it's probably a better opportunity than Google because it's not in such a cost prohibitive place to live. We're not talking about senior chief executive level roles, so I'm not going to be making enough money in California to live wherever I want, like I do now. Like where I live right now is where I want to live. So that kind of really makes me want to have it, have something locally come up. And I guess the thing that came up locally is I just passed my New York life and health exam, so I have the license to sell life insurance and health insurance in New York State. So my wife is really hoping that I can get something going with that and make money that way to get my bills paid and to get the mortgage out from underwater. And it's gonna take a lot of work, guys. It's a commission only role. They're still processing some paperwork and doing some stuff in the background. So I'm not really off the ground yet, but the big deal is that I passed that test for New York State. So, we're ready to go from there. So I guess I passively look for jobs, and I actively work New York life while I'm still here in Western New York. And, you know, it just, I think New York life could really be a good thing, like 5 years from now. But I don't know if I have the time and the patience to try to grow into a totally different industry, totally different job, to get an income rather than just pick up an audit role with a salary and go, hit the ground running. Because with New York life, you don't hit the ground running. You hit the ground with nothing, and you know, I'm gonna go for, I've already went for it. I'm gonna continue with it and stay the course. Try to sell some insurance, but in the meantime, I'm not going to ignore any good audit roles that come up. And I've been using Indeed.com. I don't know what most of you guys use, but I found Indeed is a really good meta search engine that just pulls in everything. And like, I haven't been on Monster, Career Builder. I used to use Monster a lot when I was in college and growing up, and it's actually how I got a job at a company called Sonatrol Security back when I was in college. Found that job on Monster, and it's just really a boring video, isn't it? But I'm trying to stay positive, and financially, I'm totally in the toilet right now. I'm Instacarting, which is a application for buying groceries online. Comes to my phone, and we go to the grocery stores and shop the groceries for the customers and deliver them, or we just roll up at the grocery store and the stuff's already bagged by the in-store shoppers, and then we deliver those. So it's a grocery shopping delivery service. I'm considered a full service shopper. But if you guys wanted to know just how that goes and how much money there is in that, I pulled up a bank statement for November 2019, and I made $500 at Instacart. That's how much I made in a whole month. So it's not enough money to live on, not even close. It's certainly not enough money to pay the cost of living in my home, So I'm doing it to have beer money, and that's about it, guys. Just to have some money. But I'm gonna end this video, and I think I'll make another video probably in the next couple days. I can make a reaction video to my experience over at Wells Fargo and how that's going. And then in the future, in the next couple weeks, I'll take you guys through the process of Google, and as far as I get. I could tell you the initial interview is just your typical phone screen with human resources and a brief background of a brief review of your background, and it's not a very in-depth thing, but I'm sure that's going to change with the next interview. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll keep you posted on jobs and the lawsuit, because if the lawsuit came through, if we settled on the lawsuit for the money that I'm looking for, I would be completely fine with being unemployed for now. In fact, I'd be having a good time. So, but I thought I was going to settle much earlier. So it could take into Christmas of 2020. It could take us that long. So I'm in it for the long haul, and I'm going to make videos up until that point and take you guys through what's going on. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching, guys. Have a good day.